Emotions are unpredictable, unstable, and disappear when life gets tough. Do you have systems to keep you centered?
What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grind.
BTG!
If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Our podcast is for those who want to go beyond the grind. My name is Kay.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Tosin. And today, we're going to be talking about our emotions.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well,
Alan is very emotional.
Very emotional. Probably the opposite, actually.
So as we've said before in previous episodes, right? We're all big dreamers, right?
Yes.
And to be a dreamer, you gotta get emotionally invested into whatever you're dreaming about, right? Let me give you guys an easy example. Everybody knows this. Everybody gives this example. New Year resolutions.
Oh.
All right. You say at the beginning of the year, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. At the beginning of the year, I'm going to eat clean. At the beginning of the year, I'm going to. But then come January 7th, like, where you at? What's going on?
We'll give them till February the 3rd.
Oh, no. I'm saying 1 week. I'm giving them 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months later, where you at? Right. So sometimes we make all these big dreams and assumptions and whatever it is because we feel it. We feel it. We understand it. We know that we need it in some cases. Right. However, it doesn't last long.
Yeah. I'm actually a firm believer that you should never make any decisions when you're emotional, because I believe that your emotions will talk you out of greatness. It's a very easy way for you to make an excuse. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm too tired. I'm busy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to it. And then ultimately, you end up hurting yourself because now the one thing that you have decided that you needed to do, you've yet to put some structure or some discipline around it.
You hit it on the head. I think that for me, this is big. Like I say this all the time. I don't ever feel like doing a lot of things, but it doesn't matter because discipline wins out all the time. You have to get in your mind that no one is coming to save you. No one. No one.
They need saving themselves.
If you want to be in your feelings about it, that's fine. Get your moment to be sad, happy, excited, everything. But understand that those emotions are going to change. They're unpredictable, unstable, and disappear in a moment for life. So at that point, something else, emotion may get you started, but what's going to drive you through to the finish line, right? We get excited. Let's go to a track. We're going to run 4 laps. The excitement will take you through 3/4 of the first lap. Maybe. Maybe, right? And what has to take you through the rest is discipline to keep on going, right? So I'm really big on, I think a lot of America and just people in general are not disciplined enough because it is not really taught. Yeah. I think if you play sports or did something extracurricular, you had to force yourself to be disciplined, to repeat it if you want to get better and better and better. And same in your career and same in work, right?
Hold on. It's so funny that you said no one is coming to save you because I had that same conversation with Michael Money, the guest that we had, and he said that he had went to a school to just motivate the kids about the future, right?
That was the first thing he told them?
Guys, here's the deal. Nobody's coming to save you.
No one, bro.
He's like, so whatever you need to do, you need to apply discipline to what you do. Because here's the reality.
Yeah.
Discipline, in my opinion, protect your future. It's a structure that protects your future from your mood, because your mood is always going to go up and down. But if you have some sort of routine, some sort of discipline that allow you to be consistently doing whatever you need to be doing, then you're likely to achieve that thing versus if you're making decisions while you're emotional.
So I was watching a thing about Marcus Garvey. Y'all know who that is, right?
No. Yeah.
Person who pretty much founded Pan-Africanism, right? For black people across the diaspora. Because back in, I think it's the 20s or 30s, they were treated poorly. So he saw black people were, he grew up in the Caribbean, and And he saw that they were basically seen as, no matter what status they were with their white counterparts, they were seen as their job was to serve. Like they were brought up mentally to think like all you can do is serve, even though they were free, you know? And it was the opposite mentality for white counterparts. And he kind of led that up. Anyway, where they talked about when he was younger, he shared a story about his dad took him to, I think his dad was a gravedigger or something like that. And he took him into a graveyard. And when they're in a pit, he pulled out the ladder and left him in there. He's like, he screamed, he cried, he did everything. He was young. And he said then he finally let him up. And he said why his dad did that was so he could learn a lesson. No one is coming to save you. You got to be consistent and do the things you want to do and stop waiting for anybody to teach you or to do anything. If you cannot have the discipline to do what you want and to be focused on what you want, you'll never get anywhere. So he started reading like crazy, read every book about law, anything he could. He was just hungry because he was like, I got to do this. And that's kind of what drove him to be like bringing a lot of togetherness. Now, it's, you know, there's some politics in there, here and there, that may have painted this way or that way. But the point was that he realized that it was on him to become the change and create what he wanted in life. So that hit me deep. I was like, dang, that's a tough lesson to learn at a young age. But I mean, I'm not saying doing that to your kids. Don't do that to your kids. I don't know about the psychology of that.
No,
but the point is, again, no one is coming to save you. And the thing you said about discipline, we all said, is the key.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want us to downplay, you know, having these big dreams, having these emotional feelings, right? Because sometimes that's what can catapult you, right? So I still want everybody to have those, but maybe what we're trying to say is that it's got to be followed through with a system, with discipline, with a process behind it, right? You can't just say, I want to lose weight without even having a gym membership. Well, actually, no, let me take that back because you can do it outside, right?
But
you can do it inside your house,
there has to be
but you've got to have a plan for how you're going to lose that weight, right? So that you can now implement it.
Yeah, because you got to remember that those emotions are necessary because it's what sparks the ambition.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, you know, if you don't really have the ambition to do something, it's really hard to kind of put a process in place because at that point you don't know.
Why are you even why are you even doing
I'll
it?
give you the story. There's a comedian on YouTube, and I want you guys to actually put this on YouTube. His name is Michael Jr. and the video is called Know Your Why. Have you guys seen the video before? Okay. So just for folks out there that haven't seen the video, he pointed to a guy in the crowd, right? And he said that, you know, sing Amazing Grace. Guy sang it, everything looks good. He's like, wow, you can sing. Then he said, now I want you to imagine that, you know, you grew up in a broken home, your daddy just got shot. Basically, he put all his trauma into, you know, that he wanted him to think about. Then he said, sing the song again. And this man sang his heart out.
Yeah.
To the point that it was like, oh my goodness. So, and then he explained something that was quite deep. He said the first time he sang the song, he knew the what.
Right.
But then the second time he sang the song, he knew the why. So I think that a lot of times when we're making...
I remember that one though.
You remember, right?
Yeah.
A lot of time when we make decisions, if we don't have a why if you don't have a why for that decision, there's a less chance that we're going to be consistent in doing that. You talk about going to the gym, right? A lot of people have this vision board of how, you know, they want to lose 30 pounds and they're going to start going to the gym. Well, why? Why do you want to do it, right? He said something. He said that when you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking in your purpose.
Right.
Which is quite deep. Because, and at that point, it's almost like when you're ready to give up, you remember your why.
That's right.
And then you keep going.
That's right.
And that why, you know, it's even though it's a little bit of emotion, but that emotion is kind of like the motivation that you need.
Yes.
And if you now add that with some discipline, some structure, it's inevitable. You're going to win.
No, let's say this. It's a yin and a yang, right? You need the spark.
Yeah.
But you also need gas. Right? You on E, you ain't going nowhere. You can spark all you want, you ain't going nowhere. So you need the gas to keep the car going. So the thing I always tell people is that if you don't learn to control that spark, right, which is a fire, you'll blow up and you won't go anywhere.
Yep.
Same thing is if you don't learn to control that emotion with discipline, if you don't discipline your emotions will discipline you. That's the saying. Also, it's just kind of something that I think a core of me, I know I've always felt that, and now anytime something is not going the right way, I go back to looking like, where's my discipline at? If the discipline is not there, you're not being consistent. Like we always talk about, the small wins will accumulate, like the Mamba mentality, right? You know, he's practicing 3-4 times a day. You're practicing one. Year 4, you know, he's on year 16 to year 4 because it's not even close. He's like, who is this? He said, who is this person?
But I got a question though, because I know there are probably going to be some people out there, then they're going to be saying, look, I get it, right? You guys are saying that, you know, you got to add emotions with some sort of discipline for you to be successful. But what about that person that's out there that is saying that, look, the more structure I put into my work, the less ambitious I am because my work is so creative that I just need everything to be spontaneous. What do you say to that person?
So then you can, so you don't have to it doesn't have to be completely structured, right?
Yeah.
For everyone, but there has to be some structure, right? So, because how are you going to move forward? So if you say, it could be like 3 days a week is my creative day, just going to let it flow. But on the other 4 days a week, I got to get stuff done because there's some, say like I'm a painter. I need to post online or something. I need to get my piece. I need to do some sort of marketing in some form, right? There has to be a discipline, not like, I don't feel like it. I'll do it tomorrow. Because then you'll just always put off the hard things, right?
Well, I mean, because and I'm sorry to say this, but I've had folks, especially in the creative space, that would say that, you know what, I'm not inspired today. You know,
that makes sense.
I'm just gonna wait till tomorrow.
I get it. That's for the creative aspect. So you can do your creative aspects, but you still have to, at some point, get the hard stuff done or hire someone to do the hard stuff, right?
I agree with Alan because anything without structure is chaos.
Yeah.
All right. Even in the creative space, from your example, right? If you're an artist, most times if you're trying to do something, there is going to be a deadline to do whatever.
That's correct.
If you are, let's say you are a musician, you know, the label has some kind of deadline for you to bring out an album, right? Or you've got a deadline towards a show. You've got to, today you might not feel inspired.
You better feel it soon, though.
Go get some inspiration somewhere.
You got to do something to be able to meet some of these deadlines that they've put. So the structure is, how do I work backwards from that deadline? It's not maybe the type of structure that everybody else in your business or in your workplace that you're dealing with, but it's a different type of structure. Let's say you're a writer. Yeah, you might have gotten an advance for a book, but they're going to give you a deadline on when they need that book done.
We're going to run me my money or
your
run that book.
structure is to work backwards and figure out, how do I get it done by then?
Right.
You know, every day doesn't have to look the same.
And we understand that, you know, like sometimes it's not coming to you.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to you, it's like 4 days in a row. It's just coming to you.
Sometimes it is.
But, you know, I would say if you're a creative person, you may want to plan out yours by month. Like instead of it being a week by week
deadlines, thing. Like I was saying.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like just to make it shorter is like you have 30 days in a month. 20 days can be creative days. And 10 days you have to devote to getting your stuff done.
Yeah.
Because things need to be done either way, or you're not going to get where you need to go. Or whatever. It has to be at least a 2/3 to 1/3 ratio or something like that. However much time you need to figure out what time is needed to be allocated to do the hard stuff. So, or hire someone to do it.
So what you guys are essentially saying that even though your emotions might change every day, the discipline that you instill in whatever you do is essentially what's going to carry you.
That's right. That's right. Well, what about an employee's perspective now?
Okay, ask me.
What feel like going to work?
What?
Yeah. Oh, so why'd you take a? So I was using it. I was gonna give all kinds of examples that my employee that people let me not call anybody out.
Get off at 5. So for 4:15, I'm just gonna not do much.
I mean,
do you need more? I got so many.
You got in stir mode already at 4:15. Like you got 45 minutes. Get stuff.
I mean, from an employee perspective, the reality is, I probably feel like that 80% of the time. When you get up in the morning, right? You're like, man, how much PTO do I have?
Not even PTO is sick. It's unlimited sick time.
Well, that's if you got that, right? And then, I think about my wife.
You get fired. Unlimited, but not really.
I think about my wife. And my wife is that I don't want to be homeless.
I gotta put food on the table.
And that is the biggest motivation for any man walking on this earth.
100%.
Like the ability to provide for your family and put a roof over their head.
Or women. But I will say society has put the pressure on men. We don't even. On average, I don't know about you guys.
I would say not anymore because most households now, at least from what we're seeing, run on 2 income.
Yeah.
Actually, they have to run on 2 income for all kinds
Unless
of different reasons.
a millionaire and then your wife is a stay-home wife and then you just
share on
you know
means.
I got my number, so if you call me.
No, I would say that I don't think it's like a thought like I'm not knocking anyone who does this, but I haven't ever been like to think to take a day off unless I'm something. If I take a day off, especially since I'm the soul of the business, so to speak, which I don't like to be.
Well, I mean, that's medical.
Everyone's
practice,
like,
go ahead. Yeah.
Really? Are you in the hospital? What's going on?
Because they can't function or because they're actually worried about you.
Both.
Yeah,
because
they can't also function. You can't do dentistry without having a dentist.
Even when we had an associate, I'm like, I'm staying home.
You can do a hygiene. The hygienist can still do the work,
But doesn't the dentist have to check the hygienist work?
Yes, you have to do the exams.
Yeah.
But even when I had an associate, I'm like, I'm coming in late. They're like, but you're coming in. I'm like, you don't know. You're a dentist too. Like
that's a lot of pressure.
No, in the beginning, but because also they're not used to me like not taking off. So when people are like always off all the time for one reason or another, I'm like, I don't know how you pay your bill. Explain to me like how this happens.
Well, my mindset is
give us
when I was working, if I'm just mentally just done, like tired,
you take.
My mindset is, this is not my daddy's company. Literally. I'm not about to kill myself because if something happened to me,
they're gonna let you go.
They're gonna replace me within a hot second. You get what I'm saying?
I'm not saying kill yourself, but I do have people who are literally off almost every other week. Like, I'm like, what is it now? What is it now? And the rest of the employees who are used to working hard, they say the same thing. Why? How is she gone every other week? So
let's let Kay land because we need to really flesh that out, right? Because yes, it's not your company, but still, isn't there some kind of?
He said no.
Some kind of
responsibility that you got to show up?
Yeah, no. There's no sense of responsibility that I need to show up.
He's burnt out. He has to save himself. Is what he's
one thing I have realized at this stage in my life, knocking on 40 really soon. One thing I've realized is that nobody's coming to save me.
Nobody.
I need to take care of myself. Because the company, they're going to do what's in their best interest.
That's right. They got to.
So I need to do what's in my best interest. Obviously, the context around that is that if I'm constantly taking off, then my wire is in jeopardy because at that point I am in jeopardy of being let go because of the fact that I'm not consistently showing up to work. But if I rarely call off and I just need a mental day off or I'm just genuinely sick, then but if it's like fair enough, when I was running my own company, man,
sick or not sick,
I was still showing up. Point. And the reason why I was showing up is because my mindset was, if I'm not there, nobody's going to take care of it.
Correct.
I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, if we have a customer issue, and and it needs to get solved. If we have a compliance issue, if we have this issue. So even though I'm not working like the regular 9 to 5, my phone is right next to me. I'm seeing everything that's going on Slack to make sure that
they're wondering if you're not there, they're like, what's going on? Yeah. How is he not here? That's exactly what I was
if you're not
about.
there, they're also not there either. we all take it off today.
Exactly. And some people have that mindset.
They be like, where are you at?
Okay, it's chilling.
You don't care. We don't care.
We chilling.
And
that's exactly the energy.
And my role was more critical because I wasn't CEO. CEO can take off a whole week just dealing with strictly investors. I was day-to-day operations. So
you can't even,
I can't even say it's not my daddy's company because it's my company. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So I think when you look at the consequences of your actions, it kind of dictate what you're more likely to do, But in this case, talking about emotions versus being disciplined, no matter how disciplined you are, if you know your why, you're more likely to be consistent. If you don't know your why, no matter how disciplined you are, you're more likely to lose sight because you don't know why you're doing what you're doing.
Just going on emotion.
And exactly.
You're just going on. And emotions the way I would say is emotions are quick jump.
Yeah.
Then what? Then you jump this way. Like you don't know where you're going,
And I was a victim to the example that you gave because I started off this year with the mindset that I wanted to lose 10 pounds. Actually, I wanted to bring back the 6-pack. I called it
bring back. You had one?
Oh. Man, I played sports. When I was in high school.
I'm still there. Catch up.
Everybody can be like,
that's why I keep saying I need to get my Allen swole on. All right,
man. You take care of your body. Your body take care of you. That's all I'm saying.
Whole Foods.
I called it.
Hit us up.
I called it Operation Bring Sexy Back. Right.
You even had a whole title to it. Oh Lord.
But you know what was missing?
What?
A why? Because the why wasn't strong enough for me to be consistent. And because, if you would have asked me why were you trying to bring 6-pack? Because I just thought it looked good. But I guarantee you, if the doctor said, "Hey, you need to start going to the gym because you're about to die,"
hypertension, you got whatever.
Oh, trust and believe, I will be in that gym every day doing what I need to do. Yeah. Right. So I think that example shows you how how we think as human beings in terms of our mentality.
We go where whatever keeps us comfortable and does not force us to overextend ourselves. That's the zone where most people like to live in. We don't like to be struggling. That's when we start working insanely hard. But if we would match that energy and put it on, we would just be forever moving up.
Think about this example, right? When you're in your 20s, what are you doing? You're in the building stage, right? You're trying to establish yourself. You're trying to, build your legacy, right? So any woman that approaches you or that you approach at that time, most likely you're not going to take that woman serious because you're probably not in a space where you want to settle down, right?
You don't have anything to offer.
Now all of a sudden, let's say you've kind of made some money, you're pretty much stable, and your mom, your dad is in your ear saying, "When are you going to settle down?" By the time you're in your 30s, if somebody come talk to you, you're a lot more attentive to that person because now you have a why. Your why is, I need to build a family because I want somebody to enjoy this life with. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So we make moves, we make decisions, and we give our time to what we feel like is aligned strongly with our why, so.
Now, is there some kind of reward? Because that's why, I've been hearing you guys talk about, hey, you got to be disciplined. Emotions only take you so far. But I think, what's the reward for having that discipline?
That's your why.
No, a reward is like the
outcome, right?
The outcome.
So
right, because the why is kind of like, let's use your example. The why is going to be
why you don't give
fuel.
Up. Right. The why is the reason why you don't give up.
So the 6-pack.
The 6-pack.
A 6-pack.
So
the outcome is the 6-pack.
You guys went back to that
one. Because imagine, the boys are talking about, going to DR or some island, Colombia, whatever.
Colombia.
Wherever the weather is beautiful, and then all of a sudden, the first guy takes off his shirt boom, 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 boom. Second guy take off his shirt. Everybody's looking good. You know, you trying to see like, hey, do I still have yesterday's fufu in my stomach?
You're here swimming with a t-shirt on. Come on, man. You got to get it together, bro.
I've been in that situation where, you know what? You're like, you know what? I still got my undershirt. You know, I'll just keep that, you know, keep it real PG. You know, we don't need to let people see what's going on. So to answer your question, the reward is the outcome in which you're trying to accomplish.
So give us an example of something that you felt like you did based on emotion and was hard for you to maintain.
On discipline, right?
On discipline.
And maybe I asked it a little bit incorrectly because I was thinking of a time when, you know, you're disciplined, but then the outcome isn't what you wanted.
But what did you want the outcome to be is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, let me give you guys this example.
That's what I was asking.
All right, so I don't know if I should share this one.
Go ahead.
All right, so
John Doe.
In business, because you know this is where I'll bring it from. All right, in business, whenever I was starting to build a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
I needed to have that structure. I needed to have, you know, everyone do this. Here's what we're going to be doing, and so on and so forth. Right? But I don't think people ever got it. People can get the processes down properly, right? So let's say, hey, if we do accounting, this is the way we onboard a client. This is the way we do the work. This is the way we deliver. This is the deadline that we have to deliver.
Okay.
But they couldn't do it.
Okay, but so the outcome that you were looking for
is structure.
Is that they were able to do the job.
Well, it's a structure so that it's rinse and repeat.
Right. So you're saying you didn't get the outcome that you wanted.
Yes.
So that's different.
But I was invested inside that discipline.
So you just needed better people who were willing to do that. But they weren't willing to do that.
But what was the emotions to begin with?
It wasn't.
What was the ambition to that? Because remember, we're talking about how emotions.
So the emotion.
He had a vision for something.
Yeah, the emotion was, hey, we want to serve more people.
Okay,
but to be able
and
to
that was the ambition.
Yeah. To be able to serve more people, you need more people.
Right.
So you put some structures
to be able to serve more clients, you need more people, more staff. Right. To have more staff, you need to be structured, right? You need to give them a process so that they can rinse and repeat.
Right.
And when I did all of that, it didn't work.
Well, the reason why it didn't work is two things. Number one, maybe your hypothesis was wrong. And number two,
breaking out a scientific method.
Yeah, because if you thought that this was the direction in which you needed to take, and you put that into use, and you realize that, okay, I was wrong. That's number one. Number two, we said you need structure, but the type of structure you also put in place matters. Yeah. Because you can say that you'll put it in structure, but does that structure work for the team?
There you go.
You know? So I think that's what you have to think about. So in your case, when you're in a position where you're trying to put in the structure, you have to ask yourself, is this tailored to the person? I'll give you an example. We're gonna go back to the gym and before we kind of wrap up.
Well, this question is a setup for my next question, but go ahead real quick.
So if I've put in the structure that I'm going to go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
If the structure that I've implemented was that I'm going to do it in the morning, but I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
It's not going to work because even though the structure is right, it's not tailored to the right person, which is me.
You're not setting them up for success.
Correct.
So
you may have either the wrong people or the wrong structure.
Correct.
So I asked this question because I do have ambitious employees that are my clients, and we have these conversations, right? And they're like, "Hey, I'm trying to climb the ladder to become, into that executive suite, right? So here's my path towards going on. Here's my path towards getting there.
Okay.
And it hurts sometimes when they don't get there because it seems like they have all the plans. Hey, I've got a network. I've got to show face. I've got to show up. I've got to do this. I've got to go above and beyond, and so on and so forth. But I didn't hit it.
But that's also part of business.
It's not guaranteed that you're
not guaranteed. Then you try again. Yeah. Right. So you gotta fail forward.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, sulk and then get over it and move forward, and then move. Yeah, no one's telling you. I mean, don't be sad.
Tell that to our ambitious employees that are walking.
Let's go around. Look, so basically, Tosin's telling you like you know you can do everything right, trust the process, all that good stuff, and it doesn't work out. Whoop-de-doo. It happened to all of us, right? So that's part of business. That's part of life in general. You're not going to be great at everything you did exactly right? You may have watched all those things on how to talk to girls or how to talk to guys, and you didn't get that date. Mm-hmm. It's such as life. But it doesn't mean you give up. You keep going. You just go back.
Chances.
Yeah, so
it's
you learn.
Not the process.
You learn.
Do another process.
So you can't let, again, the emotion dictate your next move. Yes. So that's basically what we're saying. Mm-hmm. You have to go back to the drawing board, recreate processes, and be consistent. Mm-hmm. Now, as to which direction to move, you may have to do a little bit of research to find out, okay, how do I pivot?
Yep.
But don't give up. Mm-hmm. Don't let your emotions hold you back.
That's right.
Let it be a starter, but it isn't necessarily the engine. Yeah. If you like what you've heard today, make sure you like and follow us. Subscribe and share all of these. We're looking for comments. We're reading it so we can see what you guys think.
For sure.
Let us know if you have any topics you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Until then, where can they find us at, guys?
Go beyond the grind.
Until next time.
Peace.
To make strategic decisions and take calculated risks. We'll also talk about future-proofing your business so you can build a lasting legacy and true freedom. This isn't a one-sided conversation. We're all on this journey together to build a life and a business that works for you, so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes.